Hello everyone, I'm Bottles and welcome to Releasing the Unreleased. Unreleased games have always fascinated me to my core. Not only do I find the concept of an abandoned project for a very popular franchise super interesting, but I also always think about how the franchise would have been affected if these games were to be released. I'm going to start off our series proper by going into as many unreleased Sonic games as I can, speculating how it would have affected future Sonic canon if these games were to be released. The cancelled game we will be talking about today is one of the more well-known cancelled Sonic games, Sonic Crackers. Sonic Crackers is a prototype build on the Sega Genesis to show off a new gameplay style for a potential new Sonic game. The gameplay included Sonic and Tails bound together by rings that are tethered together. Sonic and Tails would navigate through different levels together. Within each world, there were different types of levels planned. There were 5 attractions, which would serve as the acts of the game, which is where you would get the Sonic and Tails tether gameplay. Then there was going to be 1 field per stage, which were stages that had a more isometric 2D perspective, where Sonic and Tails were free from the tether, and a special stage that, if floated up, will just plain not work. So it is unclear what this special stage would have looked like. Fun fact, the name given to this game, Sonic Crackers, may be a mistranslation. Considering in localization it is pretty common for L's and R's to get mixed up in the romanization of Japanese text, it is possible that the actual title of this prototype was meant to be Sonic Clackers, which makes a lot more sense. Playable in the ROM that has been dumped online is World 2 with all 5 attractions, World 1, which is said to have 5 attractions but all 5 lead to the same level, and 2 fields. The fields are kind of funny since it seems they were very early in development at this time, since there's nothing to interact with and no collision whatsoever. Just an empty void of nothingness for Sonic and Tails to roam around in forever. So, this game sounds kind of familiar, right? I wonder why. Oh crap, here comes the next section. As said from the very beginning, this game was more so meant to be a prototype tech build rather than a serious game. That's why the concept of this game sounds very similar to a Sonic game that did come out, Knuckles Chaotix. It is highly speculated that Sega was trying to release Sonic Crackers on the 32X, but found that it would be better suited as a Sonic spin-off, giving it to the most popular Sonic character at the time, Knuckles, along with a crew of entirely new characters in the Chaotix. For the longest time, it wasn't even known if this prototype was real. Since the build of the game was dated for April 1st, 1994, a lot of people started thinking this may have been a huge April Fool's joke. The way we know that this prototype was no joke is in 3 different ways. 2 that are super expected, and the other that is odd. The first piece of evidence is that in the 1207 prototype of Knuckles Chaotix, the name Sonic Crackers can be found within the game, tying the 2 games together. The second is certain characteristics of the game suggest that Sonic and Tails were meant to be in Knuckles Chaotix at one point and were taken out. In the character select screen in the level select of Knuckles Chaotix, it's very peculiar that the first character slot is given to Mighty instead of Knuckles. As a lot of people know, all of Mighty's sprites in this game are repurposed Sonic sprites. So it is speculated that the reason Mighty comes first is because he was originally going to be Sonic, which makes sense to come first in the character select screen since he's the main character. Also in the character select is a line of stars that, when selected, gives you a glitched character that the fans have given the name Weknia. People speculate based off of Weknia's behaviors that this was the place where Tails was going to be put, but was taken out of the game. Fun fact, Weknia was the inspiration behind the IDW comic character Dr. Starline in both color scheme and name. I don't care what anyone says, Ian Flynn is a galaxy brain motherfucker. The third and strangest piece of evidence that this prototype was no joke is that leftover sprites of Tails from this game can be found in, and I'm not kidding, the 1994 prototype of Yu Yu Hakusho Makyo Toitsusen. Yeah, a Yu Yu Hakusho fighting game. Alright. So we already know that this game was never meant to come out, but for this section I'm going to assume that they were going to release this game as it is and speculate off of that. If Sonic Crackers came out as the original vision intended, there would be a lot of changes. First of all, I think Sonic Crackers would be considered the first ever bad Sonic game. Yeah, I don't really think this game would have been very good. Hell, I don't even really think Knuckles Chaotix was very good. I think the series' reputation is better off with having Knuckles Chaotix be a random spin-off that barely anybody played, since about 2 people on this earth actually bought a Sega 32X. The second, and objectively the worst consequence that would have come out of this game's release as is, would have been there'd be no Chaotix. Vector, Charmy, Espio, gone. No more. Interestingly though, we might have gotten completely new characters introduced in Sonic Heroes that wouldn't be Vector, Charmy, and Espio, but serve the same purpose. We could have seen a detective agency tricked by Eggman with 3 completely different characters. We also would not have Metal Sonic Kai, so the addition of Titan Metal Sonic probably wouldn't have happened in Sonic Mania Plus. Interestingly enough, Mighty would still be a character. Even though he is also a part of the Chaotix, he appeared years beforehand in the arcade-only game Sega Sonic the Hedgehog alongside Ray the Flying Squirrel. I would say that Mighty and Ray's friendship and inclusion in the modern classic games, Jesus, that's an oxymoron, would probably still happen. That concludes this episode of Releasing the Unreleased. What did you guys think? Are there games that you guys want me to cover that just have never come out? Put your suggestions in the comments below and let's learn about the wonderfully weird world of canceled games together. If you want to see the next episode of this series, tune in next week, but if you're impatient, become a channel member to be able to watch the episode right now. Our social media are in the description below, as well as our merch store, and make sure to support the channel as much as you can. The more you support, the more I can eat. With that, I bid you, my well-esteemed guests, adieu.